Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Shodanandana Vrajadana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvajakacharya Astar Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Gaur Premananda. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 8, Lord Krishna shows the universal form, Text 41. Ato yatavan na vitarka gocharam cheto mana karma vachobir anjasa yadashrayam yena yata pratiyate sudurvibhavyam pranatasmi tatpadam ato yatava navitarka gocharam cheto mana karma vachobiranjasa yadashrayam yena yata pratiyate sudurbibhavyam pranatasmi tatpadam ato yatava navitarka gocharam cheto mana karma vachobir anjasa yadashrayam yena yata pratiyate sudurvibhavyam pranatasmi tatpadam to yatava navitarka gocharam Samana karma vachobiranjasa Rashayam yena yata pratiyate Yatasmi tatpadam Charam Rashayam yena yata pratiyate Yatasmi tatpadam Charam Rashayam yena yata pratiyate 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 Rashayam yena yata p Vibhavyam pranatasmi tatpadam. Karma Rasayam yena yata pratiyate Vibhavyam pranatasmi tatpavam. Ato yatava navitarka gocharam Cheto mana karma vacho biranjasa Yadashriyam yena yata pratiyate Durvibhavyam pranatasmi satradam. Gocharam Ashriyam yena yata pratiyate Vaishnavis, Ato yatava navitarka gocharam Karma Vibhavasa Ashrayam yena yata pratiyate Vibhavyam pranatasmi tatpadam. Ato, therefore she decided to surrender unto the Supreme Lord. Yatavat, as perfectly as one can perceive. Na, not. Vitarka gocharam, beyond all arguments, reason, and sense perception. Chetaha, by consciousness. Manaha, by mind. Karma, by activities. Vachobhihi, or by words. Anjasa, taking all of them together, we can understand. We can understand them. Yadashrayam, under whose control? Yena, by whom? Yataha, from whom? Pratiyate, can be conceived only that from him everything emanates. Sudur Vibhavyam, beyond our sense perception or consciousness. Pranata asmi, let me surrender. Tat padam, at his lotus feet. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. Therefore, let me surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and offer my obeisances unto Him, who is beyond the conception of human speculation, the mind, activities, words, and arguments, who is the original cause of this cosmic manifestation, by whom the entire cosmos is maintained, and by whom we can conceive of its existence. Let me simply offer my obeisances, for he is beyond my contemplation, speculation, and meditation. He is beyond all of my material activities. Please repeat. Therefore, let me surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and offer my obeisances unto him who is beyond the conception of human speculation, the mind, activities, words, and arguments, who is the original cause of this cosmic manifestation, by whom the entire cosmos is maintained, and by whom we can conceive of its existence. Let me simply offer my obeisances, for he is beyond my contemplation, speculation, and meditation. He is beyond all of my material activities. Purport. One simply has to realize the greatness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should not try to understand him by any material means, subtle or gross. Mother Yashoda, being a simple woman, could not find out the real cause of the vision. Therefore, out of maternal affection, she simply offered obeisances unto the Supreme Lord to protect her child. She could do nothing but offer obeisances to the Lord. It is said, Achintya Kalu Ye Bhava Anatamstarkena Yojayet, Mahabharata Bhishma Parva 5:22. One should not try to understand the supreme cause by argument or reasoning. When we are beset by some problem for which we can find no reason, there is no alternative than to surrender to the Supreme Lord and offer him our respectful obeisances. Then our position will be secure. This was the means adopted in this instance also by Mother Yashoda. Whatever happens, the original cause is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sarva Karana Karana. When the immediate cause cannot be ascertained, let us simply offer our obeisances at the lotus feet of the Lord. Mother Yashoda concluded that the wonderful things she saw within the mouth of her child were due to him, although she could not clearly ascertain the cause. Therefore, when a devotee cannot ascertain the cause of suffering, he concludes, Tate nukampam susamikshimano bunjana evatma kritam vipakam hridvagvapurvir vidadan namaste jiveta yo mukti pade sadaya bhak. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-8. The devotee accepts that it is due to his own past misdeeds that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has caused him some small amount of suffering. Thus, he offers obeisances to the Lord again and again. Such a devotee is called Muktipade Sadaya Bhak. That is, he is guaranteed his liberation from this material world. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 2:14, Matraspasashtakonteya Sitoshna Sukha Dukkada Agamapayano Nityas Tamstitakshra Tamstitikshasva Bharata. We should know that material suffering due to the material body will come and go. Therefore, we must tolerate the suffering and proceed with discharging our duty as ordained by our spiritual master. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in the verse and in the first part of the purport here, Srila Prabhupada is explaining some of the epistemology of the Krishna consciousness movement. Epistemology is the branch of philosophy that has to do with how we know things. What kinds of evidence do we accept? According to the Vedic epistemology, there are three principal kinds of evidence: pratyaksha, anumana, and shabda. So the pratyaksha pramana means what we can perceive with our human senses. And this kind of evidence, this pratyaksha pramana, is considered very imperfect because our senses are limited and imperfect. If we look at our eyes with our sense of vision, we can perceive a certain part of the light spectrum. There are parts of the light spectrum that are invisible to us normally, the ultraviolet and infrared part of the spectrum. And similarly, anumana, logical inference, is also imperfect because the mind that we use for logical inference is subject to making mistakes, becoming illusioned, and becoming the victim of cheating or cheating oneself. So therefore, according to the Vedic epistemology, ultimately, if we're interested in conclusive truth, we cannot rely exclusively on pratyaksha pramana or the anumana pramana. Especially when we are talking about things that are far beyond the range of those things. So, ultimately, according to the Vedic epistemology, we accept as conclusive the shabda pramana. So, shabda means transcendental sound. It means transcendental sound emanating from a perfect source, ultimately from the personality of Godhead. And this transcendental sound vibration is communicated to the first being in the universe, Lord Brahma, at the beginning of creation. Tene Brahma Hrida Yadikaviye, it's stated in the first part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that at the very beginning of creation, this transcendental sound vibration is communicated by Lord Krishna to Lord Brahma, who is the first created being in the universe. And then from Brahma, it comes down through disciplic succession. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo vidu. It's described in the Bhagavad Gita that the knowledge is passed on from one spiritual master to the next. who communicates it to his disciples, who then communicate it to the next generation, and so on. And at a certain point, it's set down in writing. At the beginning of the Kali Yuga, Vyasadeva set the transcendental sound vibration in written form, principally the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's known as the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic literature. So the devotees ultimately depend not upon the pratyaksha pramana or the anumana pramana, sense evidence or logic and reason, but on the shabda pramana, the knowledge that's coming from the perfect source, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it's received through disciplic succession. But that doesn't mean there is no role for logic and reason and evidence. We can see, even in, the previous verse that Mother Yashoda is using some logic and reason to eliminate different possibilities. That the vision she saw in Krishna's mouth was a dream. Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, no, she rejects that because she can understand she's not sleeping. It doesn't seem to be an illusion created by the demigods because, she's thinking, what would the demigods want with a village lady like me? It's not some hallucination because of some disease in her mind either. She concludes, I'm healthy, I'm perceiving things normally, therefore she concludes it must have something to do with my child, it must be coming from him in some way. So some logic is there. And the book Jaiva Dharma, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one of our great acharyas, says that if there is pratyaksha and anumana that supports the conclusions of the Shabda Pramana, then we accept that. And, Srila Prabhupada has said the same thing. In the Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada's summary study of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, written originally by Rupa Goswami, Srila Prabhupada says, you've got different kinds of devotees, first class, second class, third class. And the first class devotee has firm faith in the conclusions of Shastra, and in addition to that is able to explain those conclusions and defend those conclusions by use of logic and argument. And Srila Prabhupada clarifies, when we speak of logic and argument in this connection, we mean logic and argument that is supported by Shastra, by the Shabda Pramana. So we, devotees, first class devotees, can use sense evidence and logic in the service of the Shabda Pramana. Sometimes in my service I do that. Srila Prabhupada wanted, some of his disciples to challenge the Darwinian theory of evolution. Part of that theory is the idea that humans evolved from apes and monkeys and first appeared on Earth less than 200,000 years ago. But from the Shabda Pramana, from the Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vedic literatures, we learn that humans like us have existed for millions and millions of years on Earth. We get the histories of devotees who lived millions of years ago, like Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj, who existed millions and millions of years ago on Earth. There are descriptions of these histories. So, sometimes, I go to archaeology conferences and I explain to them exactly what I've explained to you. The Vedic system of epistemology relies principally upon the Shabda Pramana, the statements of Shastra. And then I tell them, and there is some, if you don't accept that, well, there is some material evidence that goes along with it, that's consistent with it. But I emphasize that as far as I'm concerned, the evidence from the Shabda Pramana is sufficient, but it just so happens there is material evidence and logic that is consistent with what the Shabda Pramana says. So, as I was saying, in the Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada explains that a first-class devotee has firm faith in the statements of Shastra and is also able to give logic, arguments, reasons in support of those conclusions. The second-class devotee, Srila Prabhupada explains in the Nectar of Devotion, is firmly convinced about the statements of Shastra, but may not be able to give logical and reasonable arguments in favor of those conclusions. And a third-class devotee has very weak faith. He may, for the sake of conforming to social pressure, accept the statements of Shastra, but can very easily be persuaded to give them up. So that's the third-class devotee. Weak faith and does not really accept the authority of Shastra and therefore comes and goes very easily. So, how to develop that firm faith in Shastra, that's also explained by Rupa Goswami. Adau Shraddha. First, there has to be some initial faith. Let me try this out. And then with that initial faith, one comes into the association of devotees, sadhu sangha. It's very important. And in the association of devotees, one takes up bhajana kriya, the practice of devotional service. And by practicing devotional service comes anartha nivritti, that doubts begin to disappear and activities unfavorable to progress in Krishna consciousness begin to decrease. And when one has gone through that process of anartha nivritti, then comes nishcha, this firm faith in the process of Krishna consciousness and in the statements of Shastra. So, but the main point is that that for things beyond the range of the senses, we cannot rely on pratyaksha and anumana, on logic and sense evidence. That's what's being stated in the verse Prabhupada quotes from the Mahabharata, Achintya kalu ye bhava natam starkena yojayet. That means for the Achintya, you can't rely on Tarkena, logic, evidence, that sort of thing. You've got to have another source of knowledge. Actually, this statement from the Mahabharata comes from, as Srila Prabhupada mentions, the Bhishma Parva. And in that part of the Mahabharata, King Dhritarashtra is putting some questions to his secretary, Sanjaya. Of course, Dhritarashtra was blind, but he was putting some questions to Sanjaya about the nature of our material universe. As you know, what are its dimensions, what are its divisions, kind of like the questions that Parikshit Maharaj puts to Shukadev Goswami at the beginning of the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's in that connection that Sanjaya speaks these words, Achintya kalu ye bhava natam starkena yojayet. That he tells Dhritarashtra, these things cannot be understood by logic and reason. They have to be, the dimensions of the universe, the divisions of the universe. This has to be accepted from higher authority. It's just like Srila Prabhupada told the devotees about the Temple of Vedic Planetarium. It has to be based on Shastra. That's what we're presenting. We're presenting the statements of the Vedic scriptures. So there's another similar verse in another part of the Mahabharata. Tarko pratishtat shrutayo vibhinam nasavrishir yasya matirna binam dharmasya tattvam nitam guhayam mahajano yena gatasapanta. That's from the Vana Parva of the Mahabharata. Srila Prabhupada often quotes that verse. Tarko pratishtan. You can't know these things by tarka, by logic and reason. And even shrutayo vibhinam, even from the scriptures, sometimes it's very difficult to determine what the ultimate truth is, because one scripture will say one thing and another scripture will say another thing in some cases. And then Nasavrishir Yasya Matirna Binam, and if you're thinking of going to the rishis, to the great scholars, well, Nasavrishir Yasya Matirna Binam, you can't become a great rishi without having an opinion different from the other rishis or scholars. Once I was at a scientific conference and I was speaking to one scientist, and he was saying, getting attention in the scientific world is a little difficult. He says, it's like standing in a room with 10,000 people, everybody's talking, and you say, listen to me. Who's going to listen to you? So, because one rishi has to be saying something different from another. So therefore, dharmasya tattvam nitam guyayam, the real truth is hidden within the heart of the Mahajan, the great soul. Mahajano yena gatasapanta. So the thing to do is to follow in the footsteps of the Mahajan, and that way you're safe. Sometimes when I think about that, I think about a minefield. And if you've got somebody who knows the mind field, he can go step by step through the mind field. And if you follow exactly in the footsteps of that guide, then you can also get safely through the minefield. But if you decide, no, I'm going to step here, then there's every chance you get blown up by the mines. So, Bahajano Yenikatasa Panta, we should follow in the footsteps of the Mahajans. And our Mahajan for the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is Srila Prabhupada. So, that verse, Tarko Pratishtan Shrutiyo Vibhinam, etc., it's spoken by Yudhisthira. There was an episode in the Mahabharata where the 5 Pandavas, Arjuna, Bhima, Yudhisthira, Nakula, and Sahadev, were exiled in the forest, and they came to a lake. And Arjuna went to drink at the lake, and he died. And Bhima went to the lake, and he drank, and he died. And Nakula and Sahadev, they went to the lake, and they died. And Yudhisthira went and saw all of this. And a yaksha, demoniac personality, appeared. Actually, it was Yamaraj in disguise as a yaksha. And he told Yudhisthira, if you answer 124 questions that I'm going to put to you, I'll restore your brothers to life. So he had to answer these 124 questions. And, 4 of the questions were presented at one time. Who is happy? What is wonderful? What is the path? And what's the news? So in answer to the question, who is happy, Yudhisthira answered, that person is happy who lives in an isolated place in his own house and just cooks a few vegetables and is satisfied. Such a person is happy, not a person who's in debt or who's in exile or living in a strange place. And then, in answer to the question, what is wonderful, Yudhisthira said, the most wonderful thing is that although people in this world can see everyone around them is dying, they all think they're going to live forever, or they act like that anyways. And then, in answer to what is the path, Yudhisthira spoke this verse, Tarko Pratishtat, not by logic and reason or any of this, can we know the absolute truth? You have to go Mahajano Yenikata Sapanta. And then what's the news? Everybody wants to know what's the news. CNN, so many things. Yudhisthira said the news is that in the great pot of this material world, time is cooking everyone. So that's the news. It's as true today as it was 5,000 years ago. So, stop there. Any question or comment? Brigapati Prabhu. Pramana, Shabda, Praman.
So, and every morning we sing Guru Mukha Padmavakya Chittite Koriya Akya. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified from the words emanating from the lotus mouth of our spiritual master. So my question is this, that is the Shabda the actual sound vibration, or is it the message? If it's the sound vibration, then what is our justification for changing anything that, Prabhupada said? because if it's the sound vibration, that's sacrosanct. You can't change the sound vibration. If it's the message, okay, then we have some justification. I'm referring to like changes in the books, for instance. Like what is the philosophical understanding that allows us to make changes to anything Prabhupada said?
Well, that's like a whole huge topic, but one way, and the devotees who have responsibilities for these things have made presentations about that. But I would say one of the reasons that they give is that sometimes somebody misheard what the sound vibration was coming from Srila Prabhupada's mouth, and and that had to be corrected. But one of the BBT devotees, Archita, has his hand up. He looked like he wanted to say something about this topic.
Yes, because Brigapati's been around forever. He knows the answer. Prabhupada himself, by sound vibration, asked for his books to be polished to the standard of the Western expectation in publishing. Otherwise, he brought his Delhi Bhagavatams, the first canto. He could have just left it like that. But he himself asked that it be polished to the standard of Western publishing standards. Why didn't he just leave it? He already brought the first canto that he had translated and commented on. He could have said, just distribute it as it is, but he did not. He said, whatever I'm producing, I want you, my editors, to polish it to the standard. Now, the editors made mistakes that sometimes he himself corrected after seeming to accept it. And the famous one is the Sri Bhagavanubhacha. Hayagriva translated that originally as the Blessed Lord said, and it was published like that. And Prabhupada himself read it many times and it seemed to be okay, but then one day he just exploded. He said, what is this Blessed Lord said? Sri Bhagavanubhacha means the Supreme Personality of Godhead said. So Prabhupada wanted his books brought to a certain standard. He himself said that. And we know the famous that Jayadvaita Maharaj was the editor after some time. And practically daily he would bring Prabhupada suggestions of editing. And Prabhupada would say, yes, okay, you can do that. Yes, you can do that. Finally, one day Prabhupada said, whatever Jayadvaita does is okay. Doesn't mean that he had full license to do whatever he wanted, but Prabhupada saw that his suggestions were good. And he was
so
accepting.
that's some of the sound vibration emanating from his mouth. Okay, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.